The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Dynamics, one of the most prestigious tech companies in the world. Inside, the hum of keyboards and the occasional ping of a Slack notification filled the air. The office was a sleek, modern fortress of glass and steel, a testament to the company's success. But beneath the polished surface, tensions simmered. At the center of it all was CEO Marcus Sterling, a man whose reputation for brilliance was matched only by his arrogance. Marcus had built Sterling Dynamics from the ground up, turning it into a billion-dollar empire. He was a man who valued efficiency, results, and loyalty, but only on his terms. His sharp blue eyes missed nothing, and his temper was legendary. He was a man who got what he wanted, no matter the cost. Across the office, Malik Johnson sat at his desk, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he debugged a piece of code. Malik was one of the few black employees at Sterling Dynamics, and he had worked twice as hard to get where he was. He was a senior software engineer, a role he had earned through sheer talent and determination. But despite his skills, he often felt like an outsider in the company. The microaggressions were constant comments about his hair, his clothes, even his speech. But Malik had learned to keep his head down and focus on his work. Today, however, was different. "Malik, my office, now." Marcus's voice cut through the office like a whip. Heads turned, and Malik felt a knot form in his stomach. He had been expecting this. He stood, smoothing his shirt, and walked to Marcus's office. The door was already open, and Marcus was seated behind his massive desk, his expression unreadable. Malik stepped inside, and the door clicked shut behind him. "Sit," Marcus said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Malik obeyed, his heart pounding. "Do you know why you're here?" Marcus asked, his voice cold. Malik hesitated. "I assume it's about the Thompson account." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "The Thompson account? The account you single-handedly managed to screw up. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost this company?" Malik's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, sir, I didn't screw up the account. The client changed their requirements at the last minute, and I did everything I could to meet their demands." Marcus slammed his hand on the desk, making Malik jump. "Don't give me excuses. You had one job, Malik, one job, and you failed. Do you know what that makes you? A liability." Malik's hands clenched into fists under the desk. He had worked late nights, weekends, sacrificing time with his family to meet impossible deadlines. And now, Marcus was blaming him for something that wasn't his fault. "I'm sorry, sir," Malik said through gritted teeth. "I'll do better next time." "There won't be a next time," Marcus said, his voice icy. "You're fired. Clean out your desk and be out of the building in an hour." Malik stared at him, stunned. "You're firing me? Over one mistake?" "It's not just one mistake," Marcus said, leaning forward. "It's a pattern. You've been underperforming for months, and frankly, I don't think you're a good fit for this company." Malik's blood boiled. He knew what Marcus really meant. He wasn't a good fit, because he didn't look like everyone else in the office, because he didn't play the corporate game the way Marcus wanted him to. "This is bullshit," Malik said, standing up. "You're firing me because you don't like me. Because I don't fit into your little white boys club." Marcus's face turned red with anger. "Get out of my office before I have security drag you out." Malik glared at him for a moment, then turned and walked out, his heart pounding. He could feel the eyes of his coworkers on him as he packed up his desk, his hands shaking with rage. He had given everything to this company, and for what? To be treated like garbage? As he stepped out of the building into the pouring rain, Malik made a silent vow. Marcus Sterling would regret this. He would regret it more than he could possibly imagine. 2 weeks later, Marcus was in his office, reviewing a stack of reports. The Thompson account had been salvaged, thanks to one of his other engineers. But the whole ordeal had left a bad taste in his mouth. He couldn't stop thinking about Malik, the way he had stood up to him, the way he had accused him of racism. It had struck a nerve, one that Marcus didn't like to acknowledge. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was his assistant, Emily. "Mr. Sterling, there's someone here to see you," she said. "He says it's urgent." Marcus frowned. "I don't have any appointments scheduled." "Who is it?" "He wouldn't give his name," Emily said. "But he insists on speaking with you." Marcus sighed. "Fine, send him in." A moment later, the door opened, and a man stepped inside. He was tall, with broad shoulders and an air of authority. His dark skin and sharp features were familiar, but Marcus couldn't quite place him. "Can I help you?" Marcus asked, his tone dismissive. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Marcus frowned. "Should I?" The man stepped closer, his gaze piercing. "It's been a long time, Marcus. But then again, you were never very good at remembering the people you stepped on to get where you are." Marcus's blood ran cold as realization dawned. "Malik?" Malik's smile widened. "In the flesh. But I'm not here as Malik Johnson, the employee you fired. I'm here as Malik Johnson, the majority shareholder of Sterling Dynamics." Marcus's heart stopped. "What are you talking about?" Malik reached into his jacket and pulled out a stack of papers, tossing them onto Marcus's desk. "Take a look. You'll find everything you need to know in there." Marcus picked up the papers, his hands trembling as he scanned the documents. They were stock certificates, legal filings, and a letter from the board of directors. The words blurred together, but one thing was clear. Malik now owned 51% of Sterling Dynamics. How is this possible?" Marcus stammered. Malik leaned against the desk, his expression cold. "Let's just say I have some very powerful friends. Friends who were more than happy to help me take control of your company." Marcus's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a mistake. "You can't do this," he said, his voice shaking. "This is my company. I built it. And now it's mine," Malik said. "And the first thing I'm going to do is clean house. Starting with you." Marcus felt like the walls were closing in around him. "You're making a mistake," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I'm the only one who can run this company. You don't know what you're doing." Malik's smile faded, and his eyes hardened. "You're right, Marcus. I don't know how to run this company, but I do know how to destroy it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do." With that, Malik turned and walked out of the office, leaving Marcus staring after him in stunned silence. The empire he had built, the legacy he had worked so hard to create, was slipping through his fingers, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The silence in Marcus Sterling's office was deafening. The weight of Malik's revelation pressed down on him like a suffocating blanket. His hands trembled as he stared at the documents spread across his desk. The numbers, the signatures, the legal jargon, it all pointed to one undeniable truth. Malik Johnson now owned Sterling Dynamics, Marcus's company, his life's work. Marcus's mind raced, trying to piece together how this could have happened. He had always been meticulous about the company's finances, its shareholders, its structure. How had Malik managed to acquire a majority stake without him noticing? And who were these powerful friends Malik had mentioned? He reached for his phone, his fingers fumbling as he dialed his lawyer's number. "Greg, it's Marcus. I need you in my office. Now." Within minutes, Greg Harrison, Sterling Dynamics' longtime legal counsel, was seated across from Marcus, his sharp eyes scanning the documents. Greg was a seasoned attorney, known for his calm demeanor and razor-sharp intellect. But even he couldn't hide the flicker of concern in his expression as he read through the papers. "This is unprecedented," Greg said finally, setting the documents down. "Malik Johnson has indeed acquired a majority stake in the company. The transactions are legitimate, and the board has already acknowledged his position." Marcus slammed his fist on the desk. "How the hell did this happen? I didn't authorize any of this." Greg leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "From what I can gather, Malik leveraged a series of shell companies and offshore accounts to quietly buy up shares over the past few months. He also secured backing from several major investors, people with deep pockets and even deeper influence. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment move, Marcus. This was calculated." Marcus felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. "So what are my options?" Greg hesitated. "Legally, there's not much we can do. Malik's position as majority shareholder gives him control over the company's direction. He has the authority to make executive decisions, including replacing the CEO. Marcus's stomach churned. "You're saying he can fire me?" Greg nodded grimly. "If he chooses to." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his mind spinning. This couldn't be happening. He had built Sterling Dynamics from nothing, pouring his blood, sweat, and tears into every aspect of the company. And now, in the blink of an eye, it was being ripped away from him. "There has to be something we can do," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Some loophole. Some legal maneuver." Greg shook his head. "I'll look into it, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. Malik has covered his bases. He's not just some disgruntled employee looking for revenge. He's a strategist, and he's playing to win." Marcus's phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from Emily, board meeting in 30 minutes. "Malik Johnson will be in attendance." Marcus's heart sank. This was it. The moment he had been dreading. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He couldn't afford to show weakness. Not now. Not in front of Malik. The boardroom was filled with tension as Marcus took his seat at the head of the table. The other board members, a mix of seasoned executives and influential investors, were already seated, their expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. At the opposite end of the table sat Malik, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp and calculating. Marcus cleared his throat, forcing himself to maintain his composure. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. As you're aware, there have been some significant developments regarding the company's ownership structure." Malik leaned forward, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Significant is an understatement, Marcus. Let's not beat around the bush. I now hold a majority stake in Sterling Dynamics, and I intend to exercise my rights as the controlling shareholder." The room erupted into murmurs, but Malik raised a hand, silencing them. "I understand this may come as a shock to some of you, but let me assure you my intentions are in the best interest of the company." Marcus couldn't help but scoff. "Your intentions? You waltz in here, take over my company, and expect us to believe you have its best interests at heart?" Malik's smile didn't waver. "Your company, Marcus? That's the problem. You've always seen Sterling Dynamics as your personal fiefdom, a reflection of your ego. But a company is more than its CEO. It's the people who work tirelessly behind the scenes, the ones who actually keep the wheels turning. People like me." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're here for revenge. Admit it." Malik's expression hardened. "This isn't about revenge, Marcus. This is about accountability. You fired me because you didn't like the way I challenged you, because I didn't fit into your narrow vision of what this company should be. Well, guess what? Times have changed. And if you can't adapt, then you don't deserve to lead." The room fell silent, the weight of Malik's words hanging in the air. Marcus could feel the eyes of the board members on him waiting for his response. But for the first time in his life, he was at a loss for words. Malik stood, his presence commanding the room. "Effective immediately, I will be assuming the role of interim CEO. A formal vote will be held at the next board meeting to make the position permanent. In the meantime, I expect everyone to cooperate fully as we transition into this new chapter for Sterling Dynamics." Marcus's chest tightened as he watched Malik take control of the room with ease. It was as if he had been born for this moment, his confidence unshakable. Marcus felt a pang of something he hadn't felt in years' fear. As the meeting adjourned, Marcus lingered in the boardroom, his mind racing. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't let Malik destroy everything he had built. But how could he stop him? Greg approached, his expression sympathetic. "Marcus, I know this is difficult, but you need to tread carefully. Malik has the upper hand, and any misstep could make things worse." Marcus nodded absently, his thoughts elsewhere. He needed a plan, something to turn the tables. But for the first time in his career, he felt utterly outmatched. That evening, Marcus sat alone in his penthouse, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The city lights glittered outside, but he barely noticed. His mind was consumed with thoughts of Malik and the company he had lost. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. "You should have listened, Marcus. Now it's too late." Marcus's blood ran cold. He didn't need to ask who it was from. Malik was toying with him, enjoying every moment of his downfall. But Marcus wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He had built Sterling Dynamics from the ground up, and he wasn't about to let it slip away without a fight. If Malik wanted a war, then a war he would get. Marcus set his glass down, a steely resolve hardening in his eyes. He would find a way to take back his company, no matter the cost. And when he did, Malik Johnson would regret ever crossing him. The next morning, Marcus Sterling arrived at Sterling Dynamics earlier than usual. The office was still quiet, the faint hum of the air conditioning the only sound breaking the silence. He moved through the empty halls with purpose, his mind racing with plans and counterplans. He had spent the entire night strategizing, determined to find a way to reclaim control of his company. His first stop was the IT department. If Malik had managed to orchestrate such a massive takeover, there had to be a digital trail, something Marcus could use to expose him. He needed evidence, something concrete that would prove Malik's actions were unethical, if not outright illegal. "Marcus?" A voice called out, breaking his concentration. He turned to see Sarah Collins, the head of IT, standing in the doorway of her office. She was one of the few people in the company who had been with him since the early days, and he trusted her implicitly. "Sarah, I need your help," Marcus said, stepping into her office and closing the door behind him. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "This sounds serious." "It is," Marcus replied, his voice low. "Malik Johnson has taken control of the company. I need you to dig into everything: emails, financial transactions, anything that might give us leverage against him." Sarah's eyes widened. "Malik? The guy you fired a few weeks ago?" Marcus nodded. "He's not just some disgruntled employee. He's been planning this for months. I need to know how he did it, and I need to know now." Sarah hesitated, her expression conflicted. "Marcus, you know I'm loyal to you, but this could get messy. If Malik finds out I'm digging into his affairs, it could backfire." Marcus leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Sarah, this company is my life. If Malik destroys it, everything we've built will be gone. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal, just find me something I can use." Sarah sighed, then nodded. "All right, I'll see what I can find. But you need to be careful, Marcus. If Malik is as smart as you say he is, he'll be watching you closely." Marcus gave her a grim smile. "I'm counting on it." As the day wore on, Marcus kept a low profile, avoiding any interaction with Malik or the board members. He knew he was walking a tightrope, and one wrong move could send him plummeting. But he couldn't afford to sit back and do nothing. By mid-afternoon, Sarah called him into her office. Her expression was tense as she handed him a stack of printouts. "I found something," she said. "It's not much, but it's a start." Marcus scanned the documents, his eyes narrowing. They were emails between Malik and a series of offshore accounts, detailing the transfer of funds and the acquisition of Sterling Dynamics shares. The transactions were complex, designed to obscure their true purpose, but the pattern was clear. Malik had been systematically buying up shares for months, using a network of shell companies to hide his tracks. "This is good," Marcus said, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. "If we can prove that Malik used illegal means to acquire these shares, we might be able to nullify the transactions." Sarah shook her head. "It's not that simple. The transactions are technically legal, just ethically questionable. And even if we could prove wrongdoing, it would take months, maybe years, to untangle everything. By then, it might be too late." Marcus clenched his fists, frustration bubbling to the surface. "There has to be something else. Something we're missing." Sarah hesitated, then leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "There is one thing. I found a series of encrypted files on Malik's computer. I couldn't access them, but if we could get our hands on them, they might contain something useful." Marcus's eyes lit up. "Can you get them?" Sarah shook her head. "Not without raising suspicion. But if you could get Malik's laptop, even for a few minutes, I could extract the files." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "Leave that to me." That evening, Marcus waited in his office, his nerves on edge. He had arranged a meeting with Malik under the guise of discussing the company's future. It was a risky move, but he needed to get close to Malik's laptop. When Malik finally arrived, he was as composed as ever, his expression unreadable. "Marcus," he said, taking a seat across from him. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Marcus forced a smile. "I thought it was time we had a candid conversation about the future of the company." Malik raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And what exactly did you have in mind?" Marcus leaned forward, his tone earnest. "Look, Malik, I'll admit I made a mistake. Firing you was short-sighted. But this company is my life. I built it from the ground up, and I can't just stand by and watch it fall apart." Malik studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I appreciate your honesty, Marcus. But the truth is, Sterling Dynamics has been stagnant for years. You've been so focused on maintaining control that you've lost sight of what really matters: innovation, growth, and the people who make it all possible. Marcus clenched his fists under the table, but he kept his expression neutral. You're right. I've made mistakes, but I'm willing to learn from them. If we could work together, find a way to move forward. Malik's smile was faint, almost pitying. It's too late for that, Marcus. The board has already made their decision. The vote will be held next week, and I'll be named CEO. There's nothing you can do to change that. Marcus felt a surge of anger, but he forced it down. I understand. But before you make any final decisions, I'd like to show you something. A proposal I've been working on. It could be the key to taking Sterling Dynamics to the next level. Malik's interest was piqued. Go on. Marcus stood, gesturing to his computer. It's on my laptop, if you'll give me a moment. As Marcus pretended to search for the file, he subtly reached for Malik's laptop, which was sitting on the desk. He quickly inserted a USB drive Sarah had given him, hoping the encryption-breaking software would do its job. But before he could finish, Malik's voice cut through the room. What are you doing? Marcus froze, his heart pounding. I was just... Malik stood, his expression darkening. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? You're not as clever as you think, Marcus. Marcus's mind raced, but before he could respond, Malik snatched the USB drive from his hand. What's this? Some kind of spyware? Trying to steal my files? Marcus's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You're the one who stole my company. Malik's eyes narrowed. I didn't steal anything. I outplayed you. And now, you've just given me all the reason I need to have you removed from the board entirely. Marcus felt a cold dread settle in his chest. He had played his hand too soon, and now he was out of options. Malik turned to leave but paused at the door. You should have known better, Marcus. This was never a fight you could win. As the door closed behind him, Marcus sank into his chair, his mind reeling. He had underestimated Malik at every turn, and now he was paying the price. But as he sat there, a new thought began to form. If he couldn't beat Malik from within the company, maybe it was time to take the fight outside. Marcus Sterling sat in the dimly lit corner of a downtown bar, nursing a glass of whiskey. The low hum of conversation and the occasional clink of glasses provided a backdrop to his swirling thoughts. He had spent the last few days in a haze of anger and desperation, but now a plan was beginning to take shape. If he couldn't defeat Malik from within Sterling Dynamics, he would have to dismantle him from the outside. His phone buzzed on the table, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. Meet me at the address below. Come alone. Asterisk attached was a location pin to a nondescript building on the outskirts of the city. Marcus frowned. He didn't recognize the number, but something about the message felt urgent. He weighed his options for a moment, then downed the rest of his drink and stood. He had nothing left to lose. The address led him to an old warehouse, its exterior weathered and unassuming. Marcus parked his car and approached the entrance, his senses on high alert. The door creaked open before he could knock, revealing a shadowy figure. Marcus Sterling, the man said, his voice low and gravelly. We've been expecting you. Marcus stepped inside, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. The warehouse was sparsely furnished, with a few chairs and a table in the center. Seated at the table was a woman in her late 40s, her sharp features and piercing gaze giving her an air of authority. She gestured for Marcus to sit. Who are you? Marcus asked, his tone wary. My name is Evelyn Cross, the woman replied. I represent a group of individuals who have a vested interest in seeing Malik Johnson's rise to power reversed. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. You're against Malik? Evelyn smiled faintly. Let's just say we have our reasons. Malik's methods are disruptive. He's upsetting the balance, and that's bad for business. Marcus leaned forward, his interest piqued. What do you want from me? Evelyn's smile widened. We want to help you take back your company, but in return we expect certain concessions. Marcus's mind raced. This could be the break he needed, but he knew better than to trust strangers offering help. What kind of concessions? Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Let's just say we'll discuss the details once Malik is out of the picture. For now, all you need to know is that we have the resources and the influence to make it happen. But we need you to play your part." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "What do you need me to do?" Evelyn's eyes gleamed. "We need you to get close to Malik. Gain his trust. Find out what he's planning next. And when the time is right, we'll strike." Marcus's jaw tightened. The idea of cozying up to Malik made his skin crawl, but he knew he had no other choice. "All right, I'll do it." Evelyn nodded, satisfied. "Good. We'll be in touch." The next day, Marcus arrived at Sterling Dynamics with a new sense of purpose. He had spent the night rehearsing his approach, preparing himself for the role he needed to play. He found Malik in the executive lounge, sipping a cup of coffee as he reviewed a stack of documents. "Malik," Marcus said, forcing a smile. "Do you have a moment?" Malik looked up, his expression guarded. "Marcus, what can I do for you?" Marcus took a seat across from him, his tone conciliatory. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said, and you're right, I've made mistakes, but I want to make things right. If there's any way I can help you move the company forward, I'd like to be part of it." Malik studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I appreciate that, Marcus, but I need to know I can trust you." Marcus met his gaze, his expression earnest. "You can. I know I've been difficult, but this company means everything to me. I don't want to see it fail." Malik's expression softened slightly. "All right, I'll give you a chance, but one wrong move and you're out. Understood?" Marcus nodded. "Understood." Over the next few weeks, Marcus played his part perfectly. He attended meetings, offered advice, and even praised Malik's decisions in front of the board. Slowly but surely, Malik began to let his guard down. He started including Marcus in high-level discussions, seeking his input on key decisions. Marcus bided his time, gathering information and waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, as they worked late in Malik's office, Marcus saw his opportunity. Malik had stepped out to take a phone call, leaving his laptop unattended. Marcus quickly inserted the USB drive Sarah had given him, the encryption-breaking software working its magic. Within minutes, he had copied the encrypted files onto the drive. As he removed the drive and slipped it into his pocket, Malik returned. "Everything all right?" Malik asked, his tone casual. Marcus nodded, forcing a smile. "Just reviewing the numbers. Everything looks good." Malik smiled faintly. "Glad to hear it." Later that night, Marcus met with Sarah in her office. She plugged the USB drive into her computer, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she worked to decrypt the files. After what felt like an eternity, the files finally opened. "This is it," Sarah said, her voice tinged with excitement. "Emails, financial records, everything. It's all here." Marcus leaned over her shoulder, his eyes scanning the screen. The documents revealed a web of connections between Malik and several powerful figures in the tech industry. There were emails detailing backroom deals, secret agreements, and even hints of blackmail. It was everything Marcus needed to bring Malik down. But as he read through the files, a sense of unease settled over him. The deeper he dug, the more he realized that Malik's network was far more extensive and dangerous than he had imagined. Taking Malik down wouldn't be easy, and it would come with significant risks. Sarah looked up at him, her expression serious. "What are you going to do with this?" Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "What I have to." The next morning, Marcus called an emergency meeting of the board. He arrived early, the encrypted files stored securely on a flash drive in his pocket. As the board members filed in, he could feel the tension in the room. Malik was the last to arrive, his expression calm but curious. "Marcus," Malik said, taking his seat. "What's this about?" Marcus stood, his gaze steady. "I've called this meeting to address a serious issue. It has come to my attention that there have been unethical practices within this company. Practices that could jeopardize everything we built." Malik's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" Marcus pulled out the flash drive and inserted it into the conference room's computer. The files appeared on the large screen, their contents laid bare for all to see. The room erupted into murmurs as the board members read through the documents, their expressions growing increasingly alarmed. Malik's face was a mask of fury. "Where did you get these?" Marcus met his gaze, his tone cold. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that this ends now. You've been using this company for your own gain, and I won't let you destroy it." Malik stood, his fists clenched. "You have no idea what you're doing, Marcus. You're playing with fire." Marcus smiled faintly. "Then I guess we'll see who gets burned." The boardroom was in chaos. The documents Marcus had presented were damning, and the board members were in an uproar. Malik's face was a storm of anger and disbelief, but Marcus stood his ground, his expression resolute. He had played his hand, and now it was time to see how the chips would fall. "This is outrageous." One of the board members, a silver-haired man named Richard Hargrove, exclaimed, "Malik, how do you explain this?" Malik's jaw tightened as he scanned the documents on the screen. His mind raced, trying to find a way to spin this, but the evidence was too incriminating. He had underestimated Marcus, and now he was paying the price. "These documents are fabricated," Malik said finally, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Marcus is trying to discredit me because he's bitter about losing control of the company." Marcus scoffed. "Fabricated? Really, Malik? Do you think the board is that naive? These are your own files, pulled directly from your computer. You can't lie your way out of this." The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Richard Hargrove leaned forward, his expression stern. "Malik, if these documents are genuine, then you've put this company in serious jeopardy. We need answers, and we need them now." Malik's eyes flicked to Marcus, then back to the board. He knew he was cornered, but he wasn't ready to admit defeat. "Fine," he said, his tone clipped. "I'll address these allegations, but I need time to prepare a response. I suggest we adjourn this meeting and reconvene tomorrow." The board members murmured among themselves, then nodded in agreement. Richard Hargrove stood, his gaze sweeping the room. "We'll meet again at 9 a.m. sharp. Malik, I expect you to have a full explanation by then." As the board members filed out of the room, Marcus remained seated, his eyes locked on Malik. Malik waited until the last person had left before turning to Marcus, his expression dark. "You think you've won?" Malik said, his voice low and dangerous. "But this isn't over." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression calm. "It's over, Malik. You're finished." Malik's lips curled into a cold smile. "We'll see." That evening, Marcus returned to his penthouse, his mind still racing. He had dealt a significant blow to Malik, but he knew the fight wasn't over. Malik was resourceful, and he wouldn't go down without a fight. Marcus needed to stay one step ahead. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from Evelyn Cross. "Asterisk, you've done well, but don't get complacent. Malik has allies, and they won't take this lying down." Asterisk. Marcus frowned. He had almost forgotten about Evelyn and her shadowy associates. They had helped him get this far, but he still didn't fully trust them. He typed out a quick reply. Asterisk. "What's the next move?" Asterisk. The response came almost immediately. "Wait for Malik to make his play. Then strike." Asterisk. Marcus set his phone down, his unease growing. He didn't like the idea of waiting, but he knew Evelyn was right. Malik would retaliate, and when he did, Marcus needed to be ready. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Sterling Dynamics early, his nerves on edge. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m., and he knew it would be a pivotal moment. He had spent the night reviewing the documents, preparing himself for whatever Malik might throw at him. As he stepped off the elevator, he was met with an unexpected sight. The office was abuzz with activity. Employees huddled in small groups, their faces tense. Marcus frowned, his instincts on high alert. "What's going on?" he asked one of the employees, a young woman named Claire. Claire looked up, her expression anxious. "Haven't you heard? There's a rumor going around that Malik is stepping down as CEO." Marcus's eyebrows shot up. "What? Where did you hear that?" Claire shrugged. "It's all over the office. People are saying he's going to announce it at the board meeting." Marcus's mind raced. If Malik was planning to step down, it could mean one of two things. Either he was admitting defeat, or he was setting a trap. Marcus needed to find out which. He made his way to the boardroom, his heart pounding. The board members were already seated, their expressions grim. Malik was at the head of the table, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. Marcus, Malik said, his tone neutral. Glad you could join us. Marcus took his seat, his gaze locked on Malik. What's this about you stepping down? Malik smiled faintly. All in good time. Richard Hargrove cleared his throat, his expression stern. Let's get started, Malik. You have the floor. Malik stood, his gaze sweeping the room. Thank you, Richard. As you all know, there have been some allegations made against me. I want to address those directly. He paused, his expression serious. The documents Marcus presented yesterday are genuine. I won't deny that. But what he failed to mention is the context behind them. Marcus's jaw tightened. What context? Malik's smile was cold. The context is that I was acting in the best interest of the company. The deals I made, the alliances I formed, they were all designed to protect Sterling Dynamics from a hostile takeover. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Richard Hargrove leaned forward, his expression skeptical. A hostile takeover? By whom? Malik's gaze flicked to Marcus, then back to the board. By Marcus Sterling. The room erupted into murmurs. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. That's ridiculous, he said, his voice sharp. I would never. Wouldn't you? Malik interrupted, his tone cutting. You've been desperate to regain control of the company, even if it means destroying it in the process. The documents I'm about to show you prove that. He pressed a button on the remote, and a new set of documents appeared on the screen. Marcus's blood ran cold as he recognized theme mails, financial records, and even a draft of a proposal he had written months ago, outlining a plan to buy back shares and consolidate power. These documents show that Marcus has been planning a coup for months, Malik said, his voice steady. He's been working behind the scenes to undermine me and take back control of the company. The allegations he made against me were nothing more than a smokescreen. The board members turned to Marcus, their expressions a mix of shock and anger. Richard Hargrove's face was red with fury. Marcus, is this true? Marcus's mind raced. He had been so focused on taking down Malik that he hadn't considered the possibility of being outmaneuvered. It's not what it looks like, he said, his voice strained. I was trying to protect the company. Enough, Richard snapped. This is unacceptable, Marcus. You're suspended effective immediately. We'll be conducting a full investigation into your actions. Marcus felt a cold dread settle in his chest. He had played his hand too soon, and now he was the one being cornered. Malik's smile was triumphant. Thank you, Richard. I'll ensure the investigation is thorough. As the board members filed out of the room, Marcus remained seated, his mind reeling. He had underestimated Malik, and now he was paying the price. But as he sat there, a new thought began to form. If Malik thought he had won, he was sorely mistaken. Marcus wasn't done yet. Part 6, ***, Marcus Sterling sat in the dimly lit corner of a dive bar, far from the gleaming towers of Sterling Dynamics. The air was thick with the smell of stale beer and fried food, and the low murmur of conversations provided a backdrop to his swirling thoughts. He had been suspended from the company he had built, his reputation in tatters, and his enemies closing in. But Marcus wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. His phone buzzed on the table, and he glanced at the screen. It was a message from Evelyn Cross. Meet me at the usual place. We need to talk. Marcus downed the last of his whiskey and stood, his movements stiff with tension. He had no idea what Evelyn wanted, but he knew it couldn't be good. Still, he had no other options. He needed allies. And right now, Evelyn and her shadowy associates were the only ones he had. The warehouse was just as he remembered it, dark, unassuming, and filled with an air of secrecy. Evelyn was waiting for him inside, her sharp features illuminated by the glow of a single overhead light. You've made a mess of things, Evelyn said without preamble, her tone cold. Malik has turned the tables on you. And now, you're on the outside looking in. Marcus clenched his fists, his frustration bubbling to the surface. I did what you asked. I got close to Malik. I gathered evidence. And you played your hand too soon, Evelyn interrupted. You were supposed to wait for our signal, not go rogue and try to take him down on your own. Marcus's jaw tightened. I didn't have a choice. Malik was going to destroy the company. Evelyn's expression softened slightly, but her tone remained stern. I understand your frustration, Marcus, but this isn't just about you. Malik's rise to power has upset a delicate balance, and we need to handle this carefully. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. What do you mean, a delicate balance? Who are you people, really? Evelyn hesitated, then sighed. Let's just say we're a group of individuals who have a vested interest in maintaining control over certain industries. Malik's methods are too disruptive, too unpredictable. He's a threat to our interests, and we need him neutralized. Marcus's mind raced. He had always suspected that Evelyn and her associates were more than just concerned citizens, but this was the first time she had confirmed it. So this is about power, he said slowly. You're using me to take down Malik so you can maintain control. Evelyn's smile was faint. We're using you to restore order, and if you play your cards right, you'll get your company back in the process. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his thoughts churning. He didn't like the idea of being a pawn in someone else's game, but he knew he had no other choice. What do you need me to do? Evelyn's eyes gleamed. We need you to get back inside Sterling Dynamics. Malik may have suspended you, but he can't keep you out forever. You still have allies within the company, people who are loyal to you. Use them. Marcus frowned. And how am I supposed to do that? Malik has the board in his pocket. Evelyn leaned forward, her tone conspiratorial. Malik's hold on the board is tenuous at best. He's made a lot of enemies, and not everyone is happy with his leadership. If you can sway a few key members, you might be able to turn the tide. Marcus's mind raced as he considered her words. He did have allies within the company, people who had been with him since the beginning, who believed in his vision. If he could reach out to them, convince them to stand with him. All right, Marcus said finally. I'll do it. But I need your help. Evelyn nodded. You'll have it. But remember, Marcus, this is your last chance. Don't screw it up. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Sterling Dynamics early, his nerves on edge. He had spent the night reaching out to his allies within the company, setting up a series of discreet meetings. His first stop was Sarah Collins's office. Sarah looked up as he entered, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. Marcus, what are you doing here? I thought you were suspended. Marcus closed the door behind him, his tone urgent. I need your help, Sarah. Malik is destroying this company, and I need to stop him. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. What do you need? Marcus leaned forward, his voice low. I need access to the company's servers. Malik's been hiding something, and I need to find out what it is. Sarah's eyes widened. Marcus, if Malik finds out— He won't, Marcus interrupted. Not if we're careful. Sarah studied him for a moment, then nodded. All right, I'll help you, but you need to be quick. Over the next few hours, Marcus and Sarah worked in secret, digging through the company's servers for any trace of Malik's activities. It was risky, but Marcus knew it was his only chance to find the evidence he needed. Finally, Sarah let out a low whistle. I think I found something. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, his eyes scanning the screen. It was a series of encrypted files, hidden deep within the system. Sarah worked quickly to decrypt them, her fingers flying over the keyboard. When the files finally opened, Marcus's heart skipped a beat. They were emails, financial records, and even audio recordings, all detailing Malik's plans to dismantle Sterling Dynamics and sell off its assets to the highest bidder. This is it, Marcus said, his voice tinged with excitement. This is the proof we need. Sarah nodded, her expression grim. But how are you going to use it? Malik has the board in his pocket. Marcus's mind raced. He needed to get this evidence in front of the board, but he knew Malik would do everything in his power to stop him. He needed a plan, a way to bypass Malik and get the board's attention. I need to call an emergency meeting, Marcus said finally. But I can't do it alone. I need you to help me. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. All right, I'll do what I can. That afternoon, Marcus stood outside the boardroom, his heart pounding. He had managed to convince a few key board members to attend the meeting, but he knew it would be an uphill battle. Malik was already inside, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. Marcus, Malik said, his tone neutral. What's this about? Marcus stepped into the room, his gaze steady. I've called this meeting to address a serious issue. It has come to my attention that Malik has been planning to dismantle Sterling Dynamics and sell off its assets. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Richard Hargrove leaned forward, his expression skeptical. That's a serious accusation, Marcus. Do you have proof? Marcus nodded, pulling out a flash drive. I do. He inserted the drive into the conference room's computer, and the files appeared on the large screen. The room erupted into murmurs as the board members read through the documents, their expressions growing increasingly alarmed. Malik's face was a mask of fury. This is a lie, he said, his voice sharp. Marcus is trying to discredit me because he's bitter about losing control of the company. Marcus met his gaze, his tone cold. The evidence speaks for itself, Malik. You've been planning to sell off Sterling Dynamics piece by piece, and you've been lying to the board about your intentions. The board members turned to Malik, their expressions a mix of shock and anger. Richard Hargrove's face was red with fury. Malik, is this true? Malik's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. The silence in the room was deafening. Marcus leaned forward, his tone urgent. We can't let this happen. Sterling Dynamics is more than just a company, it's a legacy. We need to take action now, before it's too late. The board members exchanged uneasy glances, then nodded in agreement. Richard Hargrove stood, his expression stern. Malik, you're suspended effective immediately. We'll be conducting a full investigation into your actions. Malik's eyes burned with fury, but he didn't argue. He knew he had been outmaneuvered. As the board members filed out of the room, Marcus remained seated, his mind reeling. He had won this round, but he knew the fight wasn't over. Malik was resourceful, and he wouldn't go down without a fight. But for now, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. He had taken back control of his company, and he wasn't about to let it go again. The days following Malik's suspension were a whirlwind of activity at Sterling Dynamics. Marcus Sterling had been reinstated as CEO, but the victory felt hollow. The company was in disarray, its reputation tarnished by the scandal surrounding Malik's actions. The board was divided, employees were anxious, and the media was having a field day. Marcus knew he had to act quickly to stabilize the company and restore confidence both internally and externally. His first order of business was to address the employees. He called an all-hands meeting, standing on the stage in the company's auditorium, facing a sea of uncertain faces. The room buzzed with low murmurs, and Marcus could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. I know the last few weeks have been difficult, Marcus began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. Sterling Dynamics has always been more than just a company. It's a family. And like any family, we've had our share of challenges. But I want you to know that I'm committed to rebuilding what we've lost and making this company stronger than ever. The room was silent, the employees hanging on his every word. Marcus continued, outlining his plan to restore trust and transparency within the company. He promised to conduct a thorough internal review to ensure that nothing like this could ever happen again. He also announced a series of initiatives aimed at boosting morale, including new benefits, professional development opportunities, and a renewed focus on innovation. By the time he finished speaking, the mood in the room had shifted. There was a sense of cautious optimism, a belief that maybe, just maybe, they could pull through this. Marcus stepped off the stage to a round of applause, but he knew the real work was just beginning. Later that day, Marcus met with Sarah Collins in his office. She had been instrumental in helping him expose Malik's plans, and he trusted her more than anyone else in the company. How are you holding up? Sarah asked, her tone concerned. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. I've been better, but we've got a long road ahead of us. Sarah nodded. We'll get through it, but we need to be careful. Malik's not going to take this lying down. Marcus's jaw tightened. I know. That's why I need your help. We need to stay one step ahead of him. Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious. What do you need me to do? Marcus hesitated, then spoke. I need you to dig deeper into Malik's activities. There's still a lot we don't know who his allies are, what his endgame was. If we can uncover more, we might be able to neutralize him for good. Sarah nodded. I'll get started right away. As the days turned into weeks, Marcus threw himself into the work of rebuilding Sterling Dynamics. He spent long hours in the office, meeting with department heads, reviewing financial reports, and strategizing with the board. He also made a point of being more visible, walking the floors, talking to employees, and listening to their concerns. It was exhausting, but it was also cathartic. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was making a difference. But despite his efforts, the shadow of Malik loomed large. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Malik was still out there, plotting his next move. He had tried to reach out to Evelyn Cross, but she had gone silent, leaving him to wonder what her next move would be. One evening, as Marcus was working late in his office, his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Asterisk. You've done well, but the game's not over yet. Be ready. Asterisk. Marcus frowned, his unease growing. He didn't know who had sent the message, but he had a sinking feeling that it was Malik. He quickly dialed Sarah's number. Sarah, it's Marcus. I need you to come to my office. Now. Sarah arrived a few minutes later, her expression concerned. What's going on? Marcus showed her the message. I think Malik's planning something. We need to be ready. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she read the message. This could be a bluff, but we can't take any chances. Marcus nodded. I need you to double down on your investigation. We need to find out what Malik's up to before he makes his move. Sarah hesitated, then spoke. There's something else you should know. I've been digging into Malik's financials and I found something unusual. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. What is it? Sarah pulled out a folder and handed it to Marcus. Malik's been funneling money into offshore accounts. But that's not the strange part. The accounts are linked to a shell company, and that company is owned by someone you know. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he opened the folder. His eyes widened as he saw the name, Evelyn Cross. Evelyn? Marcus said, his voice tinged with disbelief. What the hell is she doing mixed up in this? Sarah shook her head. I don't know, but it looks like she's been working with Malik all along. Marcus's mind raced. Evelyn had been the one to help him take down Malik, but now it seemed like she had been playing both sides. What was her endgame? And how deep did this go? We need to find her, Marcus said, his tone urgent. If she's working with Malik, she could be planning something big. Sarah nodded. I'll see what I can find. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the office early, his nerves on edge. He had spent the night tossing and turning, his mind consumed with thoughts of Evelyn and Malik. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. As he stepped off the elevator, he was met with an unexpected sight. The office was in chaos, employees huddled around their desks, their faces tense. Marcus frowned, his instincts on high alert. What's going on? He asked one of the employees, a young man named Jake. Jake looked up, his expression anxious. Haven't you heard? There's a rumor going around that Malik is planning a hostile takeover. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What? Where did you hear that? Jake shrugged. It's all over the office. People are saying he's going to make a move today. Marcus's mind raced. If Malik was planning a hostile takeover, it could mean the end of Sterling Dynamics. He needed to act fast. He made his way to the boardroom, his heart pounding. The board members were already seated, their expressions grim. Richard Hargrove stood as Marcus entered, his tone urgent. Marcus, we need to talk. There's a rumor going around that Malik is planning a hostile takeover. Do you know anything about this? Marcus shook his head. I just heard about it myself. But if it's true, we need to be ready. Richard nodded. We've already started preparing, but we need your help. Marcus took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had taken back control of his company, but now it was under threat once again. He knew he had to act fast, but he also knew that the stakes were higher than ever. All right, Marcus said finally. Let's get to work. The boardroom was a flurry of activity as Marcus and the board members scrambled to prepare for Malik's potential hostile takeover. Reports were being pulled, legal teams were being consulted, and contingency plans were being drafted. Marcus felt the weight of the company's future pressing down on him, but he refused to let it break him. He had fought too hard to lose it all now. We need to secure our shares, Richard Hargrove said, his tone urgent. If Malik is planning a takeover, he'll try to buy up as many as he can. We can't let that happen. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. What's our current share distribution? One of the financial analysts, a woman named Claire, pulled up the data on the screen. As of now, the board collectively holds 45% of the shares. Malik owns 15%, and the remaining 40% are held by institutional investors and the public. Marcus frowned. That's not enough. If Malik can convince enough shareholders to sell, he could gain a controlling stake. Richard leaned forward, his expression grim. We need to reach out to our major shareholders. Convince them not to sell to Malik, no matter what he offers. Marcus agreed, but he knew it wouldn't be easy. Malik was persuasive, and if he was offering a premium for the shares, some shareholders might be tempted to sell. We also need to prepare a counteroffer, Marcus said. If Malik makes a bid, we need to be ready to match it or better yet, exceed it. The board members nodded in agreement, and the room erupted into a flurry of activity as everyone set to work. Marcus stepped out to make a few calls, his mind still reeling from the revelation about Evelyn Cross. He needed to find her, to understand what role she was playing in all of this. As he dialed Sarah's number, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Sarah answered on the first ring. Marcus, I was just about to call you. I found something. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What is it? Evelyn Cross, Sarah said, her tone urgent. She's been meeting with Malik. I managed to track her movements, and it looks like they've been working together for months. Marcus's jaw tightened. Do you know where she is now? I'm working on it, Sarah replied. But there's more. I found evidence that Evelyn has been funneling money to Malik through a series of shell companies. It looks like she's been bankrolling his takeover attempt. Marcus's mind raced. If Evelyn was funding Malik, it meant she had even more resources at her disposal than he had realized. We need to find her, Sarah. If we can cut off Malik's funding, we might be able to stop him. I'm on it, Sarah said. I'll keep you posted. As the day wore on, the tension in the office grew palpable. Marcus and the board worked tirelessly, reaching out to shareholders, preparing financial statements, and consulting with legal experts. But despite their efforts, the threat of Malik's takeover loomed large. Late in the afternoon, Marcus received a call from one of the company's major shareholders, a man named Daniel Carter. Daniel's tone was apologetic, but firm. Marcus, I've just received an offer from Malik Johnson, Daniel said. He's offering a 20% premium for my shares. I'm sorry, but I can't afford to turn that down. Marcus's heart sank. Daniel, please. Sterling Dynamics is more than just a company. It's a legacy. If Malik takes over, he'll dismantle everything we've built. Daniel hesitated, then sighed. I'm sorry, Marcus, but this is business. The call ended, and Marcus felt a cold dread settle in his chest. If Malik was already making offers, it meant he was moving fast. Marcus needed to act faster. That evening, Marcus received another message from the unknown number. Tick-tock, Marcus. Time's running out. Asterisk. Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't know who was sending the messages, but he had a sinking feeling it was Malik. He quickly dialed Sarah's number. Sarah, we're running out of time. Malik's already making offers to our shareholders. We need to find Evelyn now. Sarah's tone was grim. I'm close. I've traced her to a private estate outside the city. But Marcus, if she's working with Malik, this could be dangerous. Marcus didn't hesitate. Send me the address. I'm going. The estate was a sprawling property nestled in the hills, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Marcus parked his car a safe distance away and approached on foot, his heart pounding. He knew this was a risk, but he had no other choice. As he reached the gate, he was met by two armed guards. State your business, one of them said, his tone cold. I'm here to see Evelyn Cross, Marcus said, his voice steady. Tell her Marcus Sterling is here. The guards exchanged a glance, then one of them spoke into a radio. After a moment, the gate buzzed open. Marcus stepped inside, his nerves on edge. The estate was eerily quiet, the only sound the crunch of gravel under his feet. As he approached the main house, the door opened, and Evelyn stepped out. Marcus, she said, her tone neutral. I was wondering when you'd show up. Marcus's jaw tightened. We need to talk. Evelyn gestured for him to follow her inside. The interior of the house was opulent, filled with expensive art and furniture, but Marcus barely noticed. His focus was entirely on Evelyn. Why are you working with Malik? Marcus demanded, his tone sharp. Evelyn smiled faintly. I'm not working with Malik. I'm using him. Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her expression calm. Malik is a means to an end. He's ambitious, but he's also reckless. I've been funding his takeover attempt because I knew it would force you to act. Marcus's mind raced. You wanted me to take back control of the company? Evelyn nodded. Exactly. But not for the reasons you think. I don't care about Sterling Dynamics, Marcus. I care about you. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Me? Evelyn's smile widened. You're a man of vision, Marcus. But you've been too focused on your company, too blind to the bigger picture. I needed to shake you out of your complacency, to make you see what's really at stake. Marcus's jaw tightened. And what's that? Evelyn leaned forward, her gaze intense. Power, Marcus. Real power. The kind that comes from controlling not just a company, but an entire industry. And I want you to be a part of it. Marcus stared at her, his mind reeling. He had always suspected that Evelyn had her own agenda, but he had never imagined it was this. You're talking about a monopoly. Evelyn's smile was cold. I'm talking about the future. And if you're smart, you'll join me. Marcus hesitated, his thoughts churning. He had always been driven by a desire to build something great. But this was something else entirely. He knew he had to choose carefully. I need time to think, Marcus said finally. Evelyn nodded. Take all the time you need. But remember, Marcus, the game's not over yet. As Marcus left the estate, his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He had come here looking for answers, but now he had more questions than ever. He knew he had to make a decision, and soon. But whatever he chose, he knew it would change everything. Marcus Sterling drove back to the city in a daze, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. Evelyn's proposition had shaken him to his core. She wasn't just playing games with Sterling Dynamics, was playing with the entire industry. Her vision of consolidating power, of creating a monopoly, was both terrifying and alluring. Marcus had always been driven by ambition, but this was on a scale he had never imagined. As he pulled into the parking garage beneath Sterling Dynamics, he forced himself to focus. The immediate threat was still Malik. Evelyn's machinations, while concerning, would have to wait. Right now, he needed to secure his company. The office was eerily quiet when he stepped off the elevator. Most of the employees had gone home for the night, but a few stragglers remained, their faces tense as they worked to prepare for the looming threat of Malik's hostile takeover. Marcus made his way to his office, where Sarah Collins was waiting for him. "Where have you been?" Sarah asked, her tone a mix of concern and frustration. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. I had to see someone," Marcus said, his voice heavy. Evelyn Cross. Sarah's eyes widened. What did she say? Marcus hesitated, then decided to tell her everything. He recounted the conversation, from Evelyn's admission of funding Malik to her proposition of joining her in creating an industry monopoly. By the time he finished, Sarah's expression was a mix of shock and disbelief. "This is insane," Sarah said, shaking her head. "She's playing with fire. If this gets out, it could destroy not just Sterling Dynamics, but the entire industry." Marcus nodded. "I know, but right now we have to focus on Malik. If he succeeds in his takeover, none of this will matter." Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious. "I've been digging into Malik's activities, and I found something. He's been meeting with a group of investors, people with deep pockets and questionable ethics. If they back him, he'll have more than enough resources to buy up the shares he needs." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We need to cut him off. If we can expose his backers, we might be able to scare them off." Sarah nodded. "I'm working on it, but it's going to take time." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Time is the one thing we don't have." The next morning, Marcus arrived at the office early, his nerves on edge. The board meeting was scheduled for later that day, and he knew it would be a pivotal moment. He had spent the night reviewing the company's financials, preparing his case to the board. But despite his efforts, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something. As he stepped into the boardroom, he was met with a sea of tense faces. The board members were already seated, their expressions grim. Richard Hargrove stood as Marcus entered, his tone urgent. "Marcus, we need to talk. Malik's been making moves. He's already acquired 10% of the company's shares, and he's showing no signs of slowing down." Marcus's heart sank. "How is that possible? We've been reaching out to our shareholders trying to secure their support." Richard shook his head. "Malik's offering a premium for the shares, and some of our shareholders are more interested in profit than loyalty." We need to act fast. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. We need to make a counteroffer. If we can match Malik's price, we might be able to sway some of the shareholders back to our side. The board members murmured in agreement, but Marcus could see the doubt in their eyes. They were running out of options, and they knew it. As the meeting adjourned, Marcus pulled Sarah aside. We need to find out who Malik's backers are. If we can expose them, we might be able to scare them off. Sarah nodded. I'm working on it. But it's not going to be easy. These people are powerful, and they're not going to go down without a fight. Marcus's jaw tightened. We don't have a choice. If we don't stop Malik, he's going to destroy this company. Later that day, Marcus received a call from Daniel Carter, one of the company's major shareholders. Daniel's tone was apologetic but firm. Marcus, I've just received another offer from Malik Johnson, Daniel said. He's offering a 25% premium for my shares. I'm sorry, but I can't afford to turn that down. Marcus's heart sank. Daniel, please. Sterling Dynamics is more than just a company. It's a legacy. If Malik takes over, he'll dismantle everything we've built. Daniel hesitated, then sighed. I'm sorry, Marcus, but this is business. The call ended, and Marcus felt a cold dread settle in his chest. If Malik was already making offers, it meant he was moving fast. Marcus needed to act faster. That evening, Marcus received another message from the unknown number. Tick-tock, Marcus. Time's running out. Asterisk. Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't know who was sending the messages, but he had a sinking feeling it was Malik. He quickly dialed Sarah's number. Sarah, we're running out of time. Malik's already making offers to our shareholders. We need to find Evelyn now. Sarah's tone was grim. I'm close. I've traced her to a private estate outside the city. But Marcus, if she's working with Malik, this could be dangerous. Marcus didn't hesitate. Send me the address. I'm going. The estate was a sprawling property, nestled in the hills, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Marcus parked his car a safe distance away and approached on foot, his heart pounding. He knew this was a risk, but he had no other choice. As he reached the gate, he was met by 2 armed guards. State your business, one of them said, his tone cold. I'm here to see Evelyn Cross, Marcus said, his voice steady. Tell her Marcus Sterling is here. The guards exchanged a glance. Then one of them spoke into a radio. After a moment, the gate buzzed open. Marcus stepped inside, his nerves on edge. The estate was eerily quiet, the only sound the crunch of gravel under his feet. As he approached the main house, the door opened, and Evelyn stepped out. Marcus, she said, her tone neutral. I was wondering when you'd show up. Marcus's jaw tightened. We need to talk. Evelyn gestured for him to follow her inside. The interior of the house was opulent, filled with expensive art and furniture. But Marcus barely noticed. His focus was entirely on Evelyn. Why are you working with Malik? Marcus demanded, his tone sharp. Evelyn smiled faintly. I'm not working with Malik. I'm using him. Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her expression calm. Malik is a means to an end. He's ambitious, but he's also reckless. I've been funding his takeover attempt because I knew it would force you to act. Marcus's mind raced. You wanted me to take back control of the company? Evelyn nodded. Exactly, but not for the reasons you think. I don't care about Sterling Dynamics, Marcus. I care about you. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Me? Evelyn's smile widened. You're a man of vision, Marcus, but you've been too focused on your company, too blind to the bigger picture. I needed to shake you out of your complacency, to make you see what's really at stake. Marcus's jaw tightened. And what's that? Evelyn leaned forward, her gaze intense. Power, Marcus. Real power. The kind that comes from controlling not just a company, but an entire industry. And I want you to be a part of it. Marcus stared at her, his mind reeling. He had always suspected that Evelyn had her own agenda, but he had never imagined it was this. You're talking about a monopoly. Evelyn's smile was cold. I'm talking about the future, and if you're smart, you'll join me. Marcus hesitated, his thoughts churning. He had always been driven by a desire to build something great, but this was something else entirely. He knew he had to choose carefully. I need time to think, Marcus said finally. Evelyn nodded. Take All the time you need. But remember, Marcus, the game's not over yet. As Marcus left the estate, his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He had come here looking for answers, but now he had more questions than ever. He knew he had to make a decision, and soon. But whatever he chose, he knew it would change everything. Marcus Sterling stood on the rooftop of Sterling Dynamics, the city skyline stretching out before him. The wind tugged at his coat as he stared at the horizon, his mind a storm of thoughts. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of betrayal, power struggles, and impossible choices. But now, it was time to make a decision that would determine not just the fate of his company, but his own legacy. Evelyn Cross had offered him a path to unimaginable power, a chance to reshape the industry in his image. But at what cost? Marcus had always prided himself on his integrity, on building something meaningful. Joining Evelyn would mean sacrificing that, becoming the very thing he had always despised. And then there was Malik, his former employee, now his greatest adversary. Malik's hostile takeover attempt had pushed Sterling Dynamics to the brink, and Marcus knew he couldn't let him win. But defeating Malik would require more than just business acumen. It would require sacrifice. Marcus took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. He had spent his entire life chasing success, but now he realized that true success wasn't about power or control. It was about doing what was right, even when it was hard. With his mind made up, Marcus turned and headed back inside. He had a plan, and it was time to put it into action. The next morning, Marcus called an emergency meeting of the board. The room was tense as the members filed in, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Malik was conspicuously absent, but Marcus knew he was watching, waiting for his moment to strike. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus began, his voice steady. "I know the last few weeks have been difficult, but I want to assure you that Sterling Dynamics is stronger than ever. We've faced challenges before, and we've always come out on top. This time will be no different." The board members exchanged uneasy glances, but Marcus pressed on. "I've called this meeting to announce a new direction for the company. Effective immediately, I will be stepping down as CEO." The room erupted into murmurs. The board members clearly caught off guard. Richard Hargrove stood, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief. "Marcus, what are you talking about? We need you now more than ever." Marcus held up a hand, silencing the room. "I've made my decision, but before I go, I want to ensure that Sterling Dynamics is in good hands. That's why I'm recommending Sarah Collins as my successor." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise, but Marcus gave her a reassuring nod. She had been his most loyal ally, and he knew she had the vision and integrity to lead the company into the future. The board members murmured among themselves, but Marcus could see the logic in his decision starting to sink in. Sarah was respected, capable, and most importantly, untainted by the recent scandals. "I know this is unexpected," Marcus continued, "but I believe it's the best course of action for the company. Sarah has my full support, and I hope she has yours as well." After a moment of tense silence, Richard Hargrove nodded. "If this is what you think is best, Marcus, then we'll support your decision." The other board members murmured their agreement, and Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had done what he could to protect the company he had built. Now, it was time to let go. Later that day, Marcus met with Sarah in his office. She was still processing the news, her expression a mix of gratitude and apprehension. "Marcus, I don't know what to say," Sarah said, her voice tinged with emotion. "This is a lot." Marcus smiled faintly. "You've earned this, Sarah. You've been with me through thick and thin, and I know you'll do what's best for the company." Sarah nodded, her resolve firming. "I won't let you down." Marcus's smile widened. "I know you won't." As the days turned into weeks, Marcus watched from the sidelines as Sarah took the reins of Sterling Dynamics. She moved quickly to stabilize the company, reaching out to shareholders, reassuring employees, and implementing new policies to restore trust and transparency. Malik's hostile takeover attempt fizzled out as the board rallied behind Sarah and the company began to regain its footing. Marcus, meanwhile, turned his attention to a new project. He had decided to use his wealth and influence to create a foundation dedicated to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs in the tech industry. It was a way to give back, to use his experience to help others achieve their dreams. One evening, as Marcus was working late in his new office, he received a visit from an unexpected guest. Malik Johnson stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Malik," Marcus said, his tone neutral. "What brings you here?" Malik stepped inside, his gaze sweeping the room. "I heard about your foundation. It's a noble endeavor." Marcus nodded. "It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time." Malik hesitated, then spoke. "I came to apologize for everything. I let my ambition blind me, and I lost sight of what really matters." Marcus studied him for a moment, then nodded. "We've all made mistakes, Malik. What matters is what we do next." Malik's expression softened. "I'd like to help, with your foundation, I mean, if you'll have me." Marcus smiled faintly. "I think we could do some good together." As the months passed, Marcus and Malik worked side by side, using their combined experience and resources to support a new generation of entrepreneurs. It wasn't always easy. Old wounds took time to heal, but they were united by a shared vision of a better future. Sterling Dynamics, under Sarah's leadership, continued to thrive. The company became a model of innovation and inclusivity, a testament to the power of resilience and integrity. And Marcus, for the first time in his life, felt a sense of peace. He had built something meaningful, not just for himself, but for others, and in doing so, he had found a new purpose. As he stood on the rooftop of his foundation's headquarters, looking out at the city he had called home for so long, Marcus felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to make a difference. The story of Marcus Sterling was far from over. But for now, he was exactly where he needed to be. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.